tuned into the game.
We are the gentlemen advancing the melanin evolution.
Welcome to another edition of the Game Recognized Game podcast with RLJ and Kev. I'm KEV, that's RLJ, and we are the gentlemen advancing the melanin evolution. For evolution is revolution. Brother Jay, we still kicking it in my favorite month of the year.
Yes, sir.
All things black.
All black, everything.
We're rooting for everything black, everybody black. Black love in particular. You know,
Black excellence.
black excellence.
And black
Specifically,
mental wellness.
black mental wellness, man. That's really the driver behind black love and black excellence. Like, you got to be, hey, black mental wellness is the catalyst to towards your excellence and your ability to love, man. Think about that. We put our priorities be different sometime, man, but it goes back to health overall.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Greatest
sir.
wealth
Always
that we
love.
can have, mentally and physically, man. You know, so I really enjoy the overarching month of February, man. But it's been a lot of black excellence in the news recently. I mean, a lot of black excellence in the news, man. Viola Davis, she is an EGOT. She's an EGOT, recipient now. I didn't even know she had she won a Grammy, man, until I saw it, and I'm like, okay, well, where did the music artistry come in? And she won a Grammy for a short story, a narrative.
Okay.
Which is kind of dope.
Yeah, I saw it, and I was thinking the same thing, but instead of me investigating, I was ready just to go straight to celebrating. I was like, let's
man. Because I just think if you are an artist in general, like, the EGOT means that any space, any place, I am excellent. And so John Legend has an EGOT, Whoopi Goldberg, Viola Davis. I'm just thinking of the black ones that I know off the top of my head. Whoopi Goldberg. It's Quincy? I think Quincy Jones, if I'm not mistaken. I gotta put it in the Google machine real quick. But
potentially.
I just thought it was dope though. Like, Viola Davis got an EGOT, man. Like, that's something that's like it's not really a lifetime achievement, but I guess, you know, if you have lived an interesting lifetime, that is considered a lifetime achievement. That means, like, I'm dope at anything. It's like if you were a two-sport athlete or something like that.
John Legend's on there. You mentioned Quincy Jones.
J-Hud, Jennifer Hudson. Yeah, Harry Belafonte. I mean, James Earl Jones. Like, think about that, man. Like, that's heavy. That's like the greatest of the great of, like, black excellence across theater, entertainment. Like, damn, that's some good company, man.
James Earl Jones. Yeah,
that's some good company. And so, shout out to Viola Davis, man, for winning a Grammy to complete the EGOT. And for those that are unfamiliar with the EGOT, it's a man-made award that we got to name something to try to identify the greatness. And so the EGOT is the Emmy for television. It's the Grammy for music. It's an Oscar for acting. And it's also a Tony Award for theater. And so that means, like, I'm the baddest of the baddest, best of the best on any stage. That's kind of cold to me, man. Then we had LeBron James, man. LeBron James becomes the all-time scoring leader in the history of the NBA, surpassing the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. who held the record for almost 40 years after eclipsing Wilt Chamberlain. And so LeBron, I mean, it's kind of a momentous thing for me just to watch LeBron maturate in the league and to have that level of pressure on you at 18 years old, man. Like, think about what you was doing at 18, man. Like, did you have the pressure? Did you have the pressure of the world on your shoulders, like to be excellent at one thing or another?
No, I just needed to not become a statistic.
Yeah, I guess I was just trying. The bar was kind of low for me, man. I didn't want to end up in jail. I
Or
wanted
in
to
hell.
graduate from
Look,
high school.
jail or hell.
Or at least graduate from high school, man. You know, get an apartment, a car.
Right.
The bar was low for me, bro. And so to be walking in the path to try to attempt to become one of the greatest basketball players to ever play the game, and that pressure's on you at 18, man. So I just thought it was dope, the fact that he maintained a level of excellence for 2 decades, man. Like, that's an accomplishment in itself. We're not talking about the championships and the debate of who's the greatest winner. We're not necessarily talking about who's the greatest shooter or the greatest skilled position athlete in the history of the NBA. But to be a scorer of that magnitude and to eclipse 30, by the time LeBron, he eclipsed 38,000 points, 38,000, almost 400 points to eclipse Kareem. But by the time he's done playing, Brother Jay, the brother gonna have maybe 44,000 points. And to maintain a career scoring average of 27 points a game over 20 years, like I'm blown by the commitment that is required just to play an NBA game. Yeah. Let alone to be excellent over that extended amount of time. I think when Kareem, in one of his last years in the league, he averaged like 15 points a game. LeBron James is averaging 30 this year. And I'm not saying that he's greater than MJ or greater than Bill Russell or greater than even Kareem. I'm just thinking like, yo, you got to admire and appreciate the commitment to greatness and excellence over 20 years. Because if it wasn't for basketball, then you wouldn't have all of the philanthropic things that he's doing and the movies and all the entertainment mogul and platform that he's developed. And so what kills me about the whole ordeal is, even in the moment of a great feat, like, people are trying to devalue the accomplishment. Well, he's still not better than Michael Jordan, or he's still not better than Kareem, or he's still not a winner like Bill Russell. And to me, man, it just seems like when Black people are excellent, we got to bring them down a peg in order to compare them to Black people that are also excellent, that maybe we identify with more, we like more, appreciate more. And I don't think it's right, Brother Jay. Like, for example, we just had a Super Bowl, man, with 2 Black quarterbacks for the first time ever. 2 Black starting quarterbacks, man. Patrick Mahomes for the Kansas City Chiefs and Jalen Hurts for the Philadelphia Eagles. And those brothers played their ass off in the game, man. I was sad that it had to be a winner and it had to be a loser. But when you just talk about excellence in general, like in that form, then yeah, we pit greatness against greatness because there has to be a winner, right? But let's just say Pat Mahomes won this year and Jalen Hurts wins maybe the next 2 Super Bowls. Eventually, the conversation is going to be like, well, who's better, Jalen Hurts or Pat Mahomes? And like ignoring the process by which they became great, or by which they are executing their level of greatness or excellence. And for me, man, is it me, or do you feel like we do that with everything. Like black men, we do that with everything. Well, who's greater, Malcolm or Martin? Who's greater, Pat Mahomes or Jalen Hurts? Who's greater, MJ or LeBron James?
That comes from, and you know, we could talk about this for days, years, months, even, right? It comes from this base of, if someone is superior, then someone has to be inferior. And I always have the conversation with individuals. If you have someone that has reached the pinnacle of greatness for whatever village or neighborhood community standards, is there only one seat at the table? And if there's only one seat at the table, then we need to figure out and start to have the conversation wherever we are having these conversations to ask why is there only room for one at the table? And if that's the case, then we need to elongate the table, make a bigger table so more chairs can fit. Because we have this conversation, whether it's sports, whether it's academics, someone has to be first. Have to be. One person has to be the winner. And if someone comes up and does it, or someone surpasses them, oh, they were good, but they didn't do it like this because blah, 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 right? I'm talking about the form and talking about, you know, the style and the grace and all these other things. And it's like, we start this indoctrination at an early age, because I even hear children using this. Oh, you know, she the best ball player out there, or he's the best quarterback, and like, yeah, can't nobody do it like him. And it's like, okay, cool. We aren't taught to be more intentional with our words, or to say, yes, he could be the best, but that doesn't mean that the person beside him can't be the best either, right? They can be the best for the team. They can but we have this problem of being able to acknowledge everyone's greatness without dimming the light of someone else.
And right? and think about it. You know, the Super Bowl debate about who's the greatest quarterback. Like, people are trying to put Patrick Mahomes, saying, well, yeah, he's top 3 greatest quarterback of all time, just based on what he's done over the last 6 years in the start of his career. I think the barbershop talk is flattering for him, but at the same time, he's only been in the league 6 years. Like, before we put a stamp on the level of greatness that he achieves, let's let him live it first.
Right.
Like, legit, let's let them live it, you know.
Well, and I would say to that too, right? We have this thing, especially within the Black community. You're great as long as you are great. The second you have a bad day, it's like, oh, greatness disappears.
Yeah,
right?
You trash all of a sudden.
Conversation. Think of Russell Wilson when he went to Denver. You can only be as strong as your team, right? And so, like, there are other variables there, but most of the critics are individuals who were local town celebrities for that midget league in the 80s. They ain't played high school because they had grades, or they didn't have skill. They didn't play in G.O.A.T or college, or, you know, everyone's saying they was going pro, but like, you didn't make it out of midget league, bro. But here you are every week at the barbershop talking trash about individuals who have put in work, going back to what you said, and commitment to hone in their skills and their talent and their gift and their craft to be great. But we have a lot of critics coming from different areas that aren't qualified to be critics, right? Like, we both worked at an organization, and one of their buzzwords was feedback. And one thing that I said to my team was like, everyone's not qualified to give you feedback, right? Because a lot of times feedback
is a hot take.
It's a hot take, right? It's what do they call it? Feedback. What's another phrase? I'm drawing a blank. Constructive criticism.
Oh yeah.
Right? Well, let me give you some constructive criticism. And I said, yo, you got to stop taking constructive criticism from people that have never constructed anything. Right? And so I'll use Beyonce as an example. I'm not a diehard Beyonce fan. I acknowledge her gift. I say that she is a powerhouse vocalist. I enjoy some of her earlier stuff.
Hell of an entertainer, man.
Oh, absolutely.
Hell of an entertainer.
Now, the music that she makes isn't for me, right? Like, can't sit and just cruise with it. Like, okay, it's made for a certain audience. Will I take that and say that she's not great? No, I will not. I think she is among the greatest of all times in terms of entertainers, right? Like, who else can sell out a stadium concert and have people fainting, similar to that of Michael Jackson? I remember there was one video of Michael Jackson. The nigga just hits the stage and you got people fainting.
Yo, it stood there. So, Super Bowl performances, man. So, like, you talk about the Beyonce thing and her level of greatness.
Yeah.
But Rihanna just performed at the Super Bowl, and then in order for people to elevate Rihanna, folks felt like they had to denigrate Beyonce.
And
it's crazy to me. And the thing is, it's like, oh well, her, if you didn't like her performance because maybe that's not your thing, cool. But don't sit up there and say, well, yeah, the only reason people saying she performed well is because she was pregnant. Like, it be the slick stuff. It's like, yo, this is the fact that she's pregnant, performing at that stage on movable stage platforms. Bruh. I was impressed off that alone. You know what I'm saying?
it was so many things to take in, and I had a conversation with, and I had to hold my response, and I checked myself because I was like, don't just come in the room swinging. But I did ask a group of Black women. I said, so I've listened to your conversation, and not one of you all acknowledged the gift, the courage, and the greatness that it took for her to do this. Everyone was talking about, hey, why she wear this, and what she do this for, and if she was pregnant, she shouldn't have been doing this, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, no one acknowledged the space that for 19 or 20 minutes, everyone had their eyes on a Black woman in the middle of one of the most viewed events of the year and of history.
And her 19 minutes was viewed by more people than people that actually watched the game.
And it's like, I don't think you're acknowledging the stage that she was afforded. Right? Like, we always gotta have a competition. Someone always has to be the best. And it's like, okay, cool. But the people that we have out here, especially within the community, that are becoming experts or becoming like, oh, this is the best. This is the best for you, right? Like, more than one thing can be true at once. Beyonce gave a hell of a performance. Now, I will say, I have not heard to this day a rendition of the Star Spangled Banner that has evoked more emotion than Nippy's.
Oh man, now I don't think you ever will though. It's like moments in time where like God just put the anointing on people, and it's their anointing. That's it, man.
You can't duplicate it, right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be an experience, a lived experience. And if you missed it or you can't watch the video, like you just missed it, right? Marvin Gaye had a smooth version that he sang for, I think it was the NBA Finals.
Yeah, NBA All-Star.
All-Star.
Yeah.
That was smooth. Could I put those two together and say his best version was better than Whitney's? No. What I will say is that he did his thing. She did her thing. They're both sitting at the table. And I think, to your point, we got to get to the point within the community that we acknowledge that everybody has a level of greatness. And in order for me to acknowledge your light, I don't have to dim someone else's. Like, there's enough room, there's enough space in this place for all of us to shine. And everyone's light is not going to shine the same way someone else is, right? If that was the case, we wouldn't have been made as individuals. And so you comparing Rihanna to Beyonce, like they're in two different arenas. They're performing and their music is to two different audiences, right? But like the backing of who they are as an entertainer and as a business person, like completely different. And so to compare and contrast is unfair to both parties involved.
I think so.
Because I think at the end of the day, they respect each other as entertainers.
Because they know what it takes to get there. And
Absolutely.
To do it on that level. Like, when you think about this, the GOAT debate, right? And I've seen interviews with Michael Jordan or Kareem or Bill Russell, and they say, well, who's the greatest of all time? Even Kobe. They never say I'm the greatest. What they say is each great player had their era of greatness. Same level of greatness, looks different because of the era that you came up in.
Absolutely.
And Michael Jordan be the first to tell you that Dr. J was the prototype of his game.
Yeah.
Though Dr. J never achieved the same level of accolades as Michael Jordan, he was the blueprint for it.
Yeah.
The same way that James Brown was the blueprint for Michael Jackson and Prince. Don't necessarily mean that just because Prince and Michael Jackson became so great that James Brown was never great.
Yeah.
Or they were greater than James Brown. You can't have that level of greatness, especially if somebody adopted the blueprint. That doesn't mean that the person that came before you is any less of great. That's it.
Yeah.
And so I don't, it's very strange to me because I just don't see us doing that with white folks, man.
That's a good point.
Like I don't see somebody that's a Babe Ruth fan like shitting on Mickey Mantle.
Yeah. They don't use but, they use and.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
He's great and
he's
great.
I don't see folks that's a Larry Bird fan shitting on Kevin McHale. It was like both of them some bad boys. I never see it, man, and it's strange to me because I don't even think we do that with white artists. Like Madonna is great regardless of generation. You know, people that like Madonna, they think Madonna is great regardless of the decade that they identify the most with her career. Me, I'm an 80s Madonna's fan. You know, I wouldn't be able to tell you what Madonna did the last 5 or 10 years.
Me neither.
Right? You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, and what's the other white female singer that I like, man? Katy Perry, right? You know, pop icon kind of thing.
Yep.
You know, great for her era. Does it mean that she better than Madonna? Not necessarily, but I respect both of them for having the same level of grace. But you never hear white folks talk about X is better than the other. It's like they appreciate the collective.
And it's strength in numbers, right? It's going back to the short or the small table. Like, how is it that we have all this greatness, but there's only room for one at the table? Right? This ain't the throne of God. This is the greatness that God has provided his children to operate in. So why do we have a small table? Malcolm or Martin? Both, right? One chose this way, one chose the other way. And then towards the end of Malcolm's life, he started to be peaceful and to see like, maybe Brother Martin had it right all along, right?
And then MLK became the militant one towards the end of his life.
And so we got to get out of the space of comparison and get into the space of appreciating and celebrating the greatness, bro. And this is even as we are engaging with the next generation, right? I was at a middle school basketball game, and you had adults talking about who was better than who and why they were the best and why this individual, oh yeah, they good. But I'm just sitting here thinking like, yo, these is kids.
Ain't nobody guaranteed to go to the league yet.
These are kids, right? They like, let them play the game and like enjoy the game, and you should be clapping and supporting both sides, right? They're children. They're not making money off of this. Like, if anything else, they're working on their skills in hopes of, if they're going to college and they want to play basketball in college, securing an academic scholarship. But like, if that doesn't work out, like they're still children, right? I'm thinking about individuals that I hear, especially at youth events, talking about a kid as if he's not a kid, or talking like criticizing the young girls playing this. Like, I get so confused. Like, where is this coming from? Why is this okay? Why is this normal? Why are we getting into debates over children's ability?
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's get this conversation or this passion into places and spaces that we are needed, right? When we think about what's happening in Florida, it's involving our children because AP African American Studies, right? The curriculum is changing. Like, I use the same passion for this, and I get it. Everyone's not aware of a lot of the things that's happening, but we're so zeroed in on picking one. There has to be the one. And I think our focus needs to be on, instead of being the best that you can be in the space that you are in. But ultimately, you want to be invited to the table of greatness. And once you're there, like, greatness also requires humility. So anyone that is at this table understands that, yo, once we reach this level of greatness, we didn't get this greatness because, one, just merely on our ability, but like of the inspiration that we are providing to others. Yeah, you're a good ball player, but are you a good humanitarian? Right? Like Muhammad Ali, he was bragging, I'm the best, I'm the greatest. Self-affirmations, but he was also showing up in other spaces and places for the Black race. Like,
to validate it in their eyes.
Yes. I'm going to back it up. Not only am I saying this, I'm showing you this, but now I'm going to speak this. And so we got to get to the point where we think that there's only one seat at the table, and we got to start finding the temper to make a bigger table, because this conversation has been going on for decades, since we left the plantation, bro. Like,
but do you think it's because we have indoctrinated ourselves in a very capitalistic Western civilization way of thinking, where it's I instead of we, it's me instead of you, and to the victor goes the spoils. Because I Black people, we ain't designed that way, man. We're collaborative people.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
And that left us, that was stripped away from us, because they knew if I could indoctrinate them into a certain space and place, there would be no rebellion. They would compete against themselves instead of trying to get free, right? And so all of this is set up to be a distraction. If we can focus on and make it a priority of our collective effort, do what you can when you go to these youth events to make sure that everybody that's on the hardwood gets encouraged, gets the support they need, so that they all can be the best, that they all can be great. I think we'll start to see a change, whether it's academics, whether it's theater, regardless of what it is, right? Stop putting into the individual's head, especially as children, that there only can be one winner. No, I'm not telling you to give out ribbons for everything.
Yeah. I don't think this is about the participation trophy discussion. It's more, I think for me, Brother Jay, it's more so giving people the space to, work through the muck. You know what I'm saying? To work through the stuff that you got to work through in order to be great. There's gonna be some life lessons, and along the journey, you're gonna have some instances where the outcome won't always align with what you had hoped for.
Correct.
But give people the space to do that, and I'll give an example, and it is petty, but it's more so like the finals debate with LeBron in the finals. Yo, the dude's been to 10 finals, something like that, and got 4 rings. People look at that as like, oh, well, you're a loser. You got a losing percentage in the finals.
But he wasn't the only one playing, right? And
well, you weren't the only one playing, but also in certain nights, it ain't your night.
It's certain days, it ain't your day.
It ain't your day.
Right.
People, and unfortunately, Michael Jordan would not have become Michael Jordan if he hadn't taken all them ass whippings early in his career. But if Michael Jordan came up in this era, then he would have been scrutinized for getting beat up on by the Celtics and getting beat up on by the Pistons, and at some point even getting beat up on by like the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Milwaukee Bucks, right? But he would not have been able to have the space to have those lessons to learn how to win. And if you can't learn how to win, then you can't learn how to overcome different obstacles during a loss, so that the feeling of losing, and that you want to win more.
Well, I mean, I think a part of being great is recognizing that there's lessons in your losses.
Yes.
And being able to capitalize on your circumstances, maximizing the moments, and getting to the place where greatness can reign, right? Like, no one is great just for the sake of, you can't be great just for the sake of being great. Like, you have to do something.
Yeah, it's commitment, it's patience, it's ambition.
And it requires a lot. I remember my mentor told me, he said, you got what it takes, but the next level is going to take all you got. And I think greatness requires like rinse, dry, and repeating, but it also requires you to pass down what you got so that other people can make it to the table. And I think a lot of us, we get stuff and we hold on to it because we don't want anybody else that, like, I remember someone said, yo, I want you to be good, but I don't want you to be better than me. So I can't give you all my secrets. And I said, well, fair. Do you run out of secrets? Like, shouldn't you be acquiring more for the next level? Like, you're on a different level than me. Like, the questions that I'm asking you, this was when you first started out. You've been in the game for 30 some years. I just asked you a simple question. Oh man, I can't tell you my secrets of the trade. See, that's the problem. Mm-hmm. That's the problem, right? And so that's why a whole lot of individuals, they think they're building a legacy, but really they're just establishing a tombstone. Because there's nothing going to be here because you're not willing to share and have people connected to you. My job as a mentor is that the individuals that I mentor reach a level beyond what I've reached. And so I'm pouring into individuals that are trying to get to the level that I was once at or that I'm currently at, and making sure that they go greater than what I was able to do when I was in the spaces and places that they're operating in. That's my job. If as a mentor, none of my mentees surpass where I've been, then I'm not a mentor.
Yeah. I look at it almost as if like a parent don't want to give up the shine and concede the spotlight to their child.
Happens like, every day, B.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not gonna tell you everything because I don't want you to outshine me.
And I think that comes from a lot of spaces and places. You have individuals who attach what they do or what they've accomplished or their skills to their identity. So if someone else can come in and bake a cake better than me, I don't really have an identity. I don't really have usefulness. I don't have purpose. People won't call me anymore, right? And so then, like, this is why I'm here. So I laugh Because there's people, you know, in your family, they're not gonna tell you their recipes. Oh, I can't give you this because then yeah. And it's because people's identity are like they're attached to certain things. And there's a fear that if I give it to someone and they do it better than me, then I won't be needed anymore.
Wow, that goes back to value. If I'm not considered the greatest, anything less than that, I don't have value. Wow, that's kind of ill, Brother Jay. Because when we think about cancel culture, like you know, you want to cancel people for making mistakes. So it's something, you know, the mistakes could be deliberate. They could, you know, we don't know that. But ideally, we want to cancel people for making a mistake or doing something that's abnormal or doing something that's out of the norm. And then if it's like a malicious intent attached to it, it's like it goes into overdrive. But ideally, you want to cancel people for making mistakes.
Yeah, and
to win means that you haven't made any mistakes
according to certain people's standards. But I also I'm very careful. You know, we had when we started the podcast 5 seasons ago.
Yeah, that's crazy.
We were that's when Robert was in the headlines and we was talking about we're not giving up music. We not like someone's like, oh, well, they did X, Y, and Z. And I was like, so did your uncle, but you still keep inviting them to the family functions. And then now people cussing me out.
Yeah.
People mad at me because I'm just like, well, you just introduced me to your cousin, your uncle, and your grandfather. They all on the sex offender list. And y'all keep letting these kids come like you, oh, but he's supposed to blah. There's granted, when you were in the spotlight, there should be a higher level of consciousness or responsibility that you have to the community. I hear you because you're on an elevated platform. And so elevated platform requires elevated responsibility.
Hello.
Sure, we can have this conversation at a later date. But ultimately, at the end of the day, these individuals are people that may or may not have had proper guidance and may or may not have healed from trauma that they are experiencing. And trauma, right, will rear its head. You think you have it all figured out, it's hidden, it's buried. No, baby, you didn't bury it, you planted it. And so now it's growing in every aspect of your life, of which you can't get in front of a tree and hide it.
And it shows up in game 7 of a finals game.
Hello?
It shows up first round of the playoffs. It shows up your first live performance in front of a world audience.
Yeah, we speak about this cancel culture, and I always ask this question, like, okay, cool, you canceling this person for this, but your best friend just did X, Y, and Z, and you riding with them. You not canceling them, and you knew they was cheating on their husband. You knew that they was doing X, Y, and Z. You didn't cancel them, right? Like we can't be selective to where we skip our front door and try to cancel someone else's residence. It's like, nah, you keep letting Lottie Dottie and anybody come into your house, cross this door sill every night, but then you got the audacity to judge and adjudicate someone that you see on the platform, and she's an entertainer. She gets paid to do this. What are you getting out of it? Never mind. That's another conversation for another day.
Yeah, you know, I just the clip won't finish, so I just let you keep going. You know, sometimes I take it from me. I know when somebody got a full clip, man. Sometimes you just gotta let them empty the clip and keep it moving.
That's just what it bothers me, especially when it comes to cancel culture, right? Because you got all these qualifications, now you got ethics and values. Yeah. I had this conversation with someone from undergrad. I was like, now you got ethics and values. You didn't have that when we was in undergrad. You didn't. I remember you sneaking out of one room on my floor, getting signed out by somebody on another floor. I remember all of this stuff. Now you've arrived. Now you got ethics and value. Now you're willing to cancel somebody out who's doing the same thing you were doing. But, oh, well, you know, she's an entertainer. She's not supposed to live her life. Learn how life works, because you had to figure it out at the age of 18. So because she's a celebrity, she's supposed to have it figured out at 18.
And you were able to do it behind closed doors.
Yeah, you were able. Well,
Well,
there was a door, whether you chose to close it or not. That's up to you, right? And so putting a lot into perspective. So I don't really engage in a lot of conversations with certain people, right? Going back to what I said, everyone's not qualified to give feedback. And so, yeah, I will remove myself from the conversation, or if I can't, I just don't engage in the conversation, because what we're not fit to do is act like you're sitting on the right hand of God, judging everybody else, right? Like we can have the conversation around the behaviors of individuals who are encouraging the cancel culture conversation to continue. But ultimately, you got to ask yourself, am I in a place and space to where I can evaluate anybody else's life?
I think that's what it really comes down to, Brother Jay. People think that they are, everybody has an expert opinion.
Yeah.
But they are not necessarily experts.
They got what's missing from the experts is the experience
and expertise.
Yeah. You're missing some stuff there, bro.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I think that's it's always the argument around sports greatness kind of sparks it off, but I think we have that same level of behavior, same kind of behavior towards anything, especially when it comes down to Black excellence, man. Mm-hmm. And I ain't gonna let nobody put a cloud over Black excellence, especially in the month of February, brother.
Especially in the month of February,
man. I'm everything Black 365, but what you're not gonna do in the month of February is waste time, kicking somebody off of their level of greatness mountain or hill that they on. Let people be great, man. Hey, just because Prince was shining, Michael didn't shine any less. You notice that, right?
That part.
You notice that, right? Like think about rap beefs, Brother Jay. Nas and Jay-Z, arguably two of the top greatest rappers of all time, had a rap beef. And the reason they had a rap beef because they recognized the greatness in each other.
Yeah.
And
they thought that it threatened the greatness in them.
And then they realized that, I could still be dope. And it's going to be people that's consider me doper than you. And it's people that consider you doper than me. But man, impressive that I'm part of that conversation of being the dopest, greatest alive.
Yeah. And bro, most of that was fueled by people that was around them.
Yeah. It wasn't the artists.
It was not the artists. It was the people that are around them. And we can have that conversation on another day. Yeah. But like, had they had better people around them, imagine what could have been created or produced by them.
It's the Biggie Tupac piece, man.
Yeah.
If they had people around you, things probably would have ended up differently. And everybody could be great. Like we pit ourselves against each other a lot of times.
Absolutely. Most of the time.
Yeah. But I just don't like to see it when a Black man's reputation gets sullied in a conversation where they done nothing but be exemplary.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like we ain't talking like LeBron James went out and beat on his wife, who, man, shout out to his wife for helping him maintain that level of excellence for 20 some years. Cause you don't achieve that without real people in your camp, man.
Yep.
Shout out to his wife and his children and his people. But, it ain't like we talking about him going out abusing his wife or blowing money or being a bad role model. We talking about him having fewer championships and saying that, nah, man, his career is nothing. Because Michael Jordan is had the best career.
He ain't got no rings though. He I mean, Mike had 6, blah, blah, blah. He had no rings though. And it's just like,
to do that, man.
Okay. But then that also goes back to the comparison of material things, right? Like you're not wealthy until you can, you show up in a car that everybody else can't afford. Not knowing that you can't afford it either, but another conversation for another day.
You can like the $1 million worth of game podcast, and you can like the Game Recognized Game podcast with R&J and Kev, man. You can like both. It's okay. It's okay, man. It's okay. You know, you can be great at whatever you do, and it could be multiple seats at that said table.
Yes, sir.
And in honor of Black History Month and all of the Black excellence and dopeness is going out, man. Shout out one more time to Pat Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, though, who put on an absolute show. And people thought that you couldn't win a Super Bowl without a Black quarterback, you know, with a Black quarterback. And since Doug Williams' performance with the Washington football team many, many years ago, we keep just proving people wrong, man. Proving people wrong. And so with that being said, man, continue to be light, be great, but before you have an opinion, be an expert first.
That part.
That's all I got on that note. But you know, be light.
Be light.